All right, welcome to part 2 of this cropping series, image cropping. If you haven't seen part 1, please see part 1 so that you follow along better. All right, so far we've brought our image into our interface. So let's create the actual cropping interface. But first of all, let me show you that we need to add the feature for dragging this image around, because we need the user to be able to do that. So in order to do that, let's go back to our, we don't actually need index.php anymore. So let's go to interface and let's add a script down here. Let's say script. All right, so we can add some JavaScript. All right, so we want to start with we want to put a function on the mouse move event of the entire window. So we're going to say window dot on mouse move. What I'm trying to do here is to get the window to report where the mouse is at all times for as long as the mouse is moving on the window. So we're going to say it's equal to function. Okay, so we created a function here and we have to add the word event so that we can actually capture that information from that event, the mouse information from the event. So here what I want to see is an alert to show us the mouse position. Actually, an alert is not a good idea, so what I'll do is I'm going to add a div so that we just see the information in there. So I'll give it an ID of info. Let me add some space here, and then I'm going to declare that div here. I'll say document dot get element by ID info. Okay, like that. When writing get element by ID, please take note of which parts have the capital letters. Let me actually enlarge this text so that you can see it a little bit better. There we go. All right, so what we are doing here is we're telling JavaScript that when this variable represents this div, so we are getting this element using its ID, and we can reference it. We can reference it in here and say something like info.inner HTML. So we want to manipulate the inner HTML or the contents of the div. We're going to say that is equal to event.client x. So client x in this case is the position x of the mouse. So we're going to add a full colon rather, and say event.client y, so that we also get both the x and the y position. So this is all going to happen each time the mouse is moving in the window. So let's test that out, and I'll refresh this. And when I move that, nothing is happening, so there must be an error. So let me right click and say inspect element, and let's go to the console so that we can check out if there's any syntax errors. So as you can see, there's a syntax error, unexpected token 610. It shows the line number there. So on line 6, is it? Yeah, on line 6. So here I forgot the equal sign. So that was the error. So let me refresh. And as you can see, it's showing us the position of the mouse every time the mouse is moved. So we can use this to our advantage and attach the image so that every time the mouse is moved, the image follows along. So let's try and do that. So let me declare the image as well. So I'll duplicate this line and convert the word info to image. And since there's no element named image, I'm going to give image that ID right now. I'm going to say image. So now we are referencing the image when we say image. So I'm going to say image dot what I want to move on this image is the style dot left is equal to client x, or sorry, event dot client x, event dot client x. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm saying the left, which is this part, the left side of the image should have a certain number of pixels depending on the mouse. So let me go here and do the same for the top. So the style top of this image will be equal to event.client y, like that. So image.style.left. All right, so let's see if that actually does anything, which it is not. Let's inspect if there are any errors, and there are no errors. So there's just something we've done wrong. So probably because we haven't declared this image as a relative, given it relative position. So to do that, let's add some styles though. Up here, let's add some styles. So to start with, I'm going to add some styles for our image and say position relative. Let's see if that actually works. So let me right click, and as you can see, so now since the position is relative, the left and top are actually valid in this case. So when I move the mouse, it follows along, the image follows along rather. So now let's create a container for this image. That's the second thing we do, so that we have a limited area for it to scroll. So here we're going to add the image inside a container. So I'm going to add a div at the top, div like that, and get the closing part down here. Let's leave some space. So the image is inside the div, and I'm going to give this div an ID of container because it will contain everything. So let's add some styles for that container as well, so we can actually be able to see it. Container, what I need now is the width to be something like 400 pixels, very defined, height 400 pixels, and then we'll have a border, that is a solid 1 pixel, and let's give it a color of black so that we can actually be able to see it. Okay, the second thing I want to do is margin auto. Margin, set that to auto so that it moves to the center of the page. All right, so let's see what we have there. So there we go, and we have a box and our image is in there. So now, as you can see, the mouse is over here, but the image is moving from all the way over there. Now what's happening is because this if the mouse moves 100 pixels here, as you notice, the image has also moved 100 pixels in reference to its container, because it's in relative mode, meaning it's relative to the container that it's inside. So now, in order to get the actual position of the image and the mouse, I have to account for this this area on the left of the container as well. So to do that, we have to subtract the container left position, so to speak. So in this case, we're going to say the left of the image is going to be, now since this is container, let's also declare container down here and say container. So now we've gotten container from there, and now we can reference it in here and say, so this is going to be client X minus container dot offset offset left. So there's an attribute called offset left, which describes this part, this offset from the left of the page to the container or to the item. So that's what we are subtracting in there. So let me save this and let's see if the left side will report correctly. So as you can see, we are back to normal, and let's do that for the top as well. So let me do that. For the top, it's going to be offset top, like that. All right. So this means no matter where the container moves to, we're going to be reporting the correct position of the mouse, because we are subtracting the offset of the main container. All right, so far so good. We are doing it correctly. Now, the next thing we need to do is to limit, because right now, when I move the mouse, the image is moving, but I want this to happen only when I click the mouse and only if I'm inside this container. Okay, so in order to do that, we are going to have to detect when my mouse is down and when I'm dragging. Okay, so let's go back here and add a few more functions. So to start with, I'm going to add a function and say mouse move. I'm going to say mouse move on. So that's one function. This function is going to fire when the mouse is moving on top of that box. So mouse move on, mouse move off. Okay, so we want one to switch on, one to switch off. And then we're going to do the same thing. So let's just duplicate these guys. We're going to put one called mouse down as well. Mouse down on, mouse down off. So for now, let's start with the mouse move. So let's add some variables at the top here and say var mouse move, like that, is equal to false. So we're going to first set it to false, then we can actually switch it on using these functions. Okay, so since mouse move is false here, I can go down here where it says mouse move off and put the off one, and go here and set that to true, so that one of these functions sets it to true, the other one sets it to false. So in order for these to fire, we have to go on the container itself and add an on mouse move event, or let's say on mouse enter. Let's do that one, so that on mouse enter fires when the mouse goes inside the area of this div. On mouse leave fires when we are leaving this div. So on mouse enter, we are going to say run the mouse move on. Okay, let's add the word event in brackets there. Let's create another one on mouse leave. When the mouse leaves, we're going to activate the on mouse move off. Let's put event in the brackets as follows. So far, when the mouse enters and it leaves, the dragging thing should be switched off. So let's test that. Let's go back to here and put an if statement. We're going to say if mouse move is true, do this. However, if it's false, don't move anything. So let's go here and copy this inside the if statement there. So as this should work just fine. So as I go in there, as you can see, it moves. As I leave, it stops moving, and I come back, it moves. As I leave, it stops moving. Okay, so far it's working just fine. Okay, now the second thing we need to do is to be able to click before it actually it can actually move. So let me go back and add another variable called on mouse or mouse down. So just like we did before, we have to be able to know when the mouse is down. So let's go here, mouse down off, and mouse down on will be true. Oh, sorry about that. Let me go back and say true. All right. So let's do the same thing and add two of these on mouse enter and on mouse leave. But instead, we're going to add on mouse down. We activate the mouse down on function, open bracket, event, and then we do another one on mouse up. Okay. Mouse, what are we doing? Mouse move off on this one, event. Okay, and then we come down here to the function and we have to check for both and say if mouse move and mouse down, if both are true, only then should you move the item. So when we go here, as you can see, if I move the mouse now, it's not moving, but if I click and move it, oh, okay. So now here we have another problem, because what's happening here is that the image is draggable. So when I click the image and move like this, it's dragging the image, which is a different event. Okay, so we're going to deal with that. But I think if I go down here and click and move, it should work, but apparently it's not working. So let me see if we have any errors in our console, and apparently we don't have those errors. So let's see what's going on. So mouse down, true, mouse down, false. That seems correct. So if mouse move and mouse down, we do that. Okay, mouse down, false. All right, so everything seems fine. So not really sure why on mouse down, mouse move. Okay, so this is where the problem is. I'm activating the wrong function here. It's supposed to be mouse down on and mouse down off. Sorry about that. So these two were the wrong functions because those I had selected were already here. All right, so let's go back and test this again. All right, so it's working. If I do it on an empty area, not on the image itself, I have to click. If I move like this, nothing happens. But if I click and drag, it's actually working out. However, if I click on the image itself and try to move it, this is what happens. It goes to the drag event, which prevents the image from being moved. So this is not what we want. So to solve this problem, we're going to add another container on top of this to avoid this dragging thing. So to do that, let's go back here, and right next to the image inside this, we're going to create a div. Okay, so the div is going to be, oh, actually we don't need the div to be in here, but that's fine. Let's put it in there so that it moves together with the container. All right. So let's give this one an ID of, let's call it the cropper. Okay, like that, because it's the one that we're going to be getting the cropping information from. So here, let's go and add a style for our cropper. So cropper, first of all, we need to be able to see it. So let's add some background color. Now I want to add the RGBA, sorry, 0,0,0,0.5. So this is the red, green, blue are all 00, which is black, and this is the transparency, which is the alpha. 0.5 is half transparent. Then I want the width of it to be equal to the parent, which is 400 pixels. I want the height to be equal to 400 pixels as well. All right, so there we go. I think that's about it. So let me refresh so we can see it. So as you can see, there's that black thing and the image is up on top, but I want this black thing to cover the entire box here, this box at the top. So what I want to do is change its position to absolute. All right. So now that it has absolute position, it can be freely moved around. So let me go in here and use some JavaScript. Let me go down here just before these functions so that when the picture immediately loads, we assign the values of the left and the top so that it aligns with the container. So let's declare the cropper as well here. So I'm going to change this to cropper so that we can access it as well. So let me go down here and say cropper dot style dot top, okay, is equal to container dot client. No, let's use offset top. So what I'm simply saying is that this box, the top value should be equal to the offset here at the top. So these things should line up properly. So let me do that for the top and left as well. Let me go here and change that to left. So let's refresh and see if it's going to line up just fine. And there we go. So we have our thing. It doesn't line up completely well down here because we have that 1 pixel on the border. We do have that 1 pixel on the border. So what we could do, anyway, we're going to remove the border in the end. Actually, let's just do that now. This border pixel, that 1 pixel is the one that's, so let's just comment it out for now. Let me go back and refresh and you see everything looks nice and good. Now let's change our cursor to a move tool while we are here. let me go on the cropper and say cursor move. Okay, so that now when I come over here, there's this move, the mouse changes to that. So let's try and drag this and see if it's working, and so far it seems to be functioning just fine. Okay, there we go, there we go. Everything is moving and moving and moving, though it malfunctions a little bit, but we're going to sort that out. All right, so this video is becoming long, so let me cut it here and bring you back in the third part so that we continue from where we left off. See you in the next video.